this is the bear trap that all online business owners fall into, because how do you know what you need to improve upon if you can't point it out? Hey everybody, and welcome back to Business Fundamentals. I'm Melissa Schaefer, and on this channel, we tackle what your business's online architecture and overall design needs to be to optimize your processes and workflows that can not only save your business time and resources, but most importantly, money. Now, I have seen just one workflow gave back 5 hours per employee per month. Now, for a full team, that can equate to an entire month's worth of hours. But for you specifically, if you could get simply by improving one workflow, get 5 hours back in your month, that would translate to getting an entire week back in your year. Now, what would you do with all of that extra time? The sky is truly the limit. Now, like I said, I have a much longer video that goes into all the nitty-gritty details of how we came to be having this conversation. But until then, let's get into the good stuff. Now, I was a Salesforce consultant for 5 years, and while I was sold as a person that would help somebody with optimize and implement their Salesforce, what I came to realize is Salesforce is a crayon within a much bigger box of how to optimize your online business, because having a CRM is not specifically Salesforce. Having a CRM for an online business is kind of like not having a hammer in your toolbox. It's not the entire thing. It doesn't do everything, but it does contribute a key piece to the puzzle of when you add up what all those tools in the toolbox can do. And it's not some obscure tool, it's a pretty common must-have type of tool. Now, there are a lot of different platforms that you can get a CRM from, including Salesforce, even HubSpot, and many others. Now, I'm not here to tell you which CRM is right for you. Based on what business you have and how big your business currently is, that is going to inevitably answer the question of what CRM is going to best suit your needs right now. Now, that doesn't mean you won't eventually outgrow it. That's a very real possibility. And when I did Salesforce implementations, more often than not, it was because whatever the business currently had set up was not able to handle the capacity of the scale of the business anymore. And that's when, my team and I came in, and not only did we build the Salesforce infrastructure to support their business, but we also built all of the background processes and workflows that made the business function. And then more importantly, this is something that's so commonly forgotten, and one of the reasons I've taken a step specifically out of Salesforce and into just online business in general is how all of your different departments. Now, if you're a solopreneur, you do all the departments. So you have to make sure these things are all connected without you, right? But if you're a person that's running even a small, medium, or large size team, you need your marketing to connect to your sales, and you need your sales to connect to your service and your support, and then you need all of those things to connect to your finance. Those could be different platforms, those could be different softwares, we could be talking about completely different teams. And as your business scales, if you have a gap in any of these areas, it's going to not only hurt you, but there's a very real chance that without doing what I'm about to talk to you about in this video,
1 hour later,
you're not gonna find it. So in this video, I want to urge all online business owners to create their online business ecosystem blueprint. Now, that's a lot of words. What this really means, let's say you are the owner of Nike and you have a Nike store, and the store has a building, and it has a door with a lock on it, and it has the counters in the front for, or the checkouts for when people want to buy their shoes, and then you have in the windows you have your signs, and you have all these things that are contributing to that business functioning and being successful. Now, you don't need to create a map per se of a physical location, because when you walk up to the building and you see the signs, that you recognize that as your marketing. When you walk into the building and you see all the places that people can check out their shoes and buy their shoes, you see that as your sales. When you walk to the back and see all the shoes stacked and somebody is, helping them find their shoes, you see that as service. But the problem with online business is it's all in here. Now, the number of people that I have talked to in where I am consulting on their business and I say, let's look at this. Can you show me what that looks like? And they go, it's in my head. Like, I can describe it to you, but I can't show it to you. And this is the bear trap that all online business owners fall into, because how do you know what you need to improve upon if you can't point it out? If we were trying to say, find something, like we were trying to get directions to go somewhere, if you can't point out on the map where you're trying to go, how are you going to know all the different routes, let's say, you could take to get there? So when it comes to online business, I find that everybody is more than okay being like, I use, let's say, ClickFunnels, HubSpot, and like MailChimp. I use these softwares, but they try to replace the literal picture of how all of those platforms communicate together simply by telling themselves what they use. Now, how are you going to know that everything is not only connected, but functioning as expected if you don't have, let's say, your one source of truth, where I say, okay, now how does your website share its leads with HubSpot? Now, you could do that a number of ways. So that's one of the reasons I got out of Salesforce specifically, because there are so many ways to do this. You don't have to use Salesforce. They just happen to have the best sales team. So they got a lot of people to adopt Salesforce. Salesforce is very complicated, but when it comes to connecting your website to your CRM, let's say you are trying to connect a web page that you built on ClickFunnels to your HubSpot CRM, there are a lot of ways in which you can connect this. But if you're not tracking what is being connected, everybody who's a solopreneur right now, all this information cannot just live in your head. If you ever want to expand your team, you actually have to create, documentation that can be shared with somebody else that makes sense, so that your business doesn't just live inside you. It actually lives in the real world. And I think this is a big step that all business owners need to take. Is it takes, the entrepreneur like you, it becomes your passion. It's your literal, it's your heart, right? Everything that you have dedicated to this business, it becomes a part of you. But if you are able to actually take your business and put it on paper, I usually use like Miro. I really like Miro because you can actually layer documents. There's a few different aspects to this blueprint that are required that we'll go over. But you can use anything. You could use Lucidchart, you could use Miro, you could even use like a Google Doc with like the drawing thing that it's janky and it doesn't have a big enough image. But I'm just saying this is, it's not required that you use special software for it. Just saying that if you're not able to use Miro or Lucidchart or whatever to outline how your marketing works, not only how it works, but how it then connects to your sales. When you have your sales process, then what happens? How is that then connected to your service, support, finance? What integrations do you have working which directions? Because there's a one-way sync and a bi-directional sync. That needs to be identified in order for not only you to find the gaps later, because when you set something up versus when you have a problem with it 3 months later, there's a gap in knowledge there. So unless you're tracking what you're doing and you're continuously updating it and making sure that you're keeping track of all the tweaks here and there, then you're really not going to be able to find those holes as efficiently as you could. I mean, I'm not saying you're never going to find them. I am just saying that if you had a reference point, you're going to find your gaps a heck of a lot faster. So there are a few different layers to your business ecosystem blueprint. So let's go over what they are and what they would generally hold. Each business is going to look a little different because each service looks a little different. Each, if you're B2C versus B2B, business to business or business to consumer, those are going to look perhaps a little different just based on what service you provide. But these are the general buckets, and they all serve their own purpose as it pertains to how a business functions, and so they do apply to everybody in some way. So the first layer, the bottom layer, is your departments, and by extension, the softwares you use to support those departments. So let's say you use ClickFunnels. ClickFunnels is a web page builder. And it's also, you could build a membership site. You could build your website, you could build your funnels, you could build all kinds of stuff on ClickFunnels. Now, with 2.0, they did try to upgrade their CRM game.
Sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit.
Props. However, since I have worked in Salesforce for years, I'm going to say you guys got a long way to go. But the point is that when you're building web pages, that is not how you would say your customer needs support. It needs service. That's going to be a different platform than the one that you use for building web pages. And similarly, if you use, say, HubSpot as your CRM, where you're tracking people's data and whatnot, and could also be tracking the sales process, because that's a way to track emails, it's a way to move things through phases of the sales and all this kind of stuff. Those are different platforms. So the first thing you need is a per department breakdown: your marketing, your sales, your service, your support, and your finance, because also finance, right? Like QuickBooks, like whatever you use for your finance also has to connect to all these things, or anywhere at least that you collect money. So that is your first layer. Your first layer is your departments / softwares and how they are interconnected. So if you go one layer deeper and you say, let's say ClickFunnels, and you're building web pages, or GoDaddy, that's how you built your website. Whatever you use on like the marketing side of things, you would have all of your individual functions per that platform outlined, and then by extension still connected to, for instance, if you have a lead magnet that is a PDF download, you would have your funnel mapped out, and the and we'll go deeper and deeper because the information collected is relevant. But what we would have there is just the functions on that platform and how the information collected there is connected to whatever. Say when somebody gets your free PDF, that automatically sends them to your CRM for HubSpot or whatever you use. You want to identify that those two things are connected. And if they are connected through anything other than just a basic integration, you want to also identify how they are connected. So if you have a way, so on Salesforce, say you're connecting on ClickFunnels, say you're connecting ClickFunnels to MailChimp. There's a default integration where all you really do is you have to set it up in the back end of ClickFunnels, and then when you use your funnel, you identify where in MailChimp that information needs to go. So while you have your funnel over here being tracked, and you say you're using ClickFunnels, that is identifying where that integration would need to be addressed. But say you have ClickFunnels over here and you have HubSpot over here, and the information is actually connected through Zapier, then you'd also want to use that to identify that Zapier is the one that connects these two platforms. It's not ClickFunnels individually or HubSpot individually. It is Zapier that is sending that information. So the basic layer is the departments and the softwares. Then what you do is you take each software and you identify what you're using it for. You just go one layer deeper on the function. Now, that's why I like to use Miro with the layered documents. And I'll provide a link below on, using Miro, and you can use it for free and test it out. But the point is that each of these layers goes a little deeper. So the next thing you're going to be identifying is the workflows and processes that connect all of these things together. So like I said, if you have, say, a funnel on ClickFunnels where people get a free PDF download, and that is a potential lead that then gets shared with your HubSpot CRM, and that is connected through a Zapier automation, that is the next layer of this, is how everything connects together. And I would also spend time identifying if the connection is just a one-way road or if it's a two-way road, because that will affect how your automations, processes, and workflows ultimately work in the end, because you have to identify who wins. You have to pick, like if you have a bidirectional sync or integration, one of the platforms has to be the source of truth, and the other one is more like the updater or the contributor, let's say. So with all that being said, we'd have all of your departments with the softwares that they use. We would then have what the function of each of those softwares is and how they connect between the departments. Now, the very third layer, if you're gonna have to get all zoomed in and really, this is a very if done correctly, this would be a very robust document, but it could also serve to be it would be your first go-to if anything needed to be changed, if anything needed to be updated, when things need to scale, any of that. This would be where you would go and say, all right, what are we trying to change? And you could play around with it and see ultimately with your own eyes how everything would be affected if you moved things around. Because I've had this happen so many times when people build automations on top of each other. They tend to forget some of the older automations, and then they create conflicting automations. And you don't know that they're conflicting until later when you're trying to find something and can't find it, or you come across a problem and go, that's weird. But you don't know, because the computer, when it comes to automation, the computer's just listening to you. The computer's, even if you give it a crappy instruction, it's going to do it because you told it to. It's not going to sit there and have its own opinion about it. It's just going to do it. So the last layer of all of this is identifying your data and your data infrastructures, and by extension, your validations. So say you are collecting an email on your opt-in page over on ClickFunnels. Now, it's required for somebody to put their email in order to get the PDF. But say you also have an optional place for them to put their name in. It's not required. So they could get away with not putting their name and yes, putting their email. What you would do is you'd want to identify that the email is required, but the first name is not. So let's say you're in your CRM and you're looking at your leads and you're like, okay, why do we have a bunch of nameless emails? Then you would go to your blueprint, look at the funnel, or look at the on your map. You would look at where these leads came from, and you would immediately identify the fact that the email is required and the name is not. Now, there's a couple routes with that. You could go change it and change it on your blueprint. Presto, changeo, done. Or you say, okay, I just wanted to know why we have a bunch of nameless emails. It's because it's not required. There's your answer. But you would simply answer that question by going to your map. The adverse of this is you would be going to the CRM, then you'd be going to Zapier and seeing if seeing if all the things are being communicated over to from one platform to another. And then you'd maybe go look at the funnel and go, oh, I guess it's not required. So at the end of the day, what this does is it just streamlines not only you being able to identify issues, but also you being able to fix them later. If, say, for instance, you want to update something or change something, or say you're using Salesforce and you hate Salesforce, want to switch to HubSpot. If you have a map already going, you would know exactly what you need to recreate in the other platform in order to make a successful switch. Everybody else that I ever spoke to or consulted for literally had no blueprint, no map, no idea. And so I would always have to create it for them. So I am trying to help everybody, because the other thing is, with a consultant, one of the things I realized is I wasted a lot of time talking to people about how to think about their problems. So if you have a literal map where you're like, all right, my problem is right here. From here to here, there's something happening or something broken or something like this. You could easily go to somebody who could fix your problem and say, here, this is where my problem is. Versus me, when I was always in a room consulting, I would first have to spend all my time just getting them to tell me what the problem, where the problem is, because they didn't know where it was because they didn't have a map to show me. They would have to describe it to me, which for it would be like trying to describe calculus to a fifth grader. Like, there's a sincere gap between, like, so a non-technical person trying to describe a technical issue to me was always difficult. It was always really hard. With all that being said, that is why this business ecosystem blueprint is so effective, not only for what you're building, but also later down the line when you're trying to fix problems, because there is technology when it's on your side is a really great asset, and when it's working against you, it is your worst nightmare. So the faster you can identify the issue, the faster you get over it, the faster you fix it, the faster you move on with life. Now, there is no faster way to identify what your problem is or what route you need to take to get from point A to point B than a map. And that's why I am urging everybody. I can link, Miro, Loose Chart, whatever. There's a lot of different platforms by which you could create said map. And I will create a second video that is us building a blueprint together so that you can actually see this, a live demonstration of what I'm really talking about. But I am hoping that to sum this up in one sentence, I sincerely hope that at least you have some food for thought, that if you create an online business on paper and not just in your mind, that'll make it so if you need to update, scale, delegate a task about how your business ecosystem works, you are in a much better place to facilitate that task or get this work done so much faster. Does this take time? Yes, but it'll save you time in the long run. So can you put a price on the exponential time you won't be spending having to retrace your steps? You tell me. So I sincerely hope this video has helped you. And if it has, please give this video a like. If you want to see more content like this, subscribe, because then you can be notified every time I post a new video, because I can promise you I will be posting more about how to improve your online business ecosystem, not only through assets that you can build, but how to improve your processes, workflows, automations to save you time, money, and resources. I can't even begin to describe how effective fixing one problem workflow in your company can be, but it can have exponential results, because if you fix it correctly the first time, that can pay dividends later. So I hope this has helped you. If it has, like, subscribe, share, and I will see you guys on the next one. Have a great day.